Thank you very much for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Absolute
Thank you for
pleasure.
taking the time. First of all, I want to ask you, it's been 2 years, hasn't it? It's probably the same question that you get all over and again and again and again. It's been 2 years, right?
Yeah.
August 15th?
2021, Black Day in the modern history of Afghanistan for us.
Yes, it's terrible. Was that like the worst day for Afghanistan history in the past 50 years, 60 years? Or hasn't it been worse?
I think there could have been more worse situations, but this was something that the younger generation never imagined, because we had heard stories of the previous regimes and governments being collapsed. Our dad and our forefathers used to narrate stories, but this happened right in front of our eyes, which was very heartbreaking. The younger generation of Afghanistan had hopes. They saw a thriving Afghanistan growing right in front of their eyes. We had a huge percentage of women in universities, at work, at colleges, in the army. We had women pilots. And then all of a sudden you see your country is collapsing. Your president has left the country. The army has been shattered. There's no longer the constitution. The parliament is no longer functioning. MPs have escaped. And you're left at the mercy of those who were once killing you. So imagine what could that situation be.
Can you run me through exactly what happened? How did it collapse in such a short time?
Well, that's
Was it like a really orchestrated thing? Did people on the inside kind of lack, or did they betray the people? Or did it just come out of nowhere and everyone panicked?
I think it was not like this, that the Taliban appear out of nowhere and they conquered entire Afghanistan. It seemed to be happening when the peace talks in Doha started. The Americans were negotiating with the Taliban, but they were sidelining the elected government of Afghanistan. There was not even a single representative of the Afghan government in the talks between the Taliban and the Americans. So the Americans, I kind of easily say that the Americans installed Taliban in Afghanistan in 2021.
Don't you think this is something similar to what happened with ISIS in a way? Because the thing when it comes to these organizations, and I am going to say organizations because they are very organized, they are very capable, they are trained, they know what they're doing. They're not just some barbaric groups that come in out of nowhere like they used to back in the day with Genghis Khan and whatnot. They are organized. Every time something like this happens, and I'm not going to go on a big conspiracy, but people always link it back to America and the US. And so what would the US want in Afghanistan? What is it in Afghanistan that they would like to have? Or what kind of power would they want to assume over there?
Fedele, you see, Afghanistan is considered as the heart of Asia. Firstly, the geostrategic location of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is minerals rich, the natural resources that Afghanistan has, and it has been extracted without any record from the past 30 years. Nobody knows how much of it has gone. The local population in Afghanistan often say that heaps of lithium have been extracted from the country by the foreigners that came to Afghanistan, and they left. Coming to the point of the Americans, I believe the local people in Afghanistan, they no longer like Americans.
Americans or the American government?
This is the narrative of the local people, that they say, like, we don't like American.
Okay.
Be it the people, the government, or anyone, because they betrayed us. And I think every American citizen should be questioning their government, that where their tax money went. The Americans say they went to Afghanistan to eliminate terrorists and terrorism. In the past 20 years, were they successful in eliminating terrorism? They said they went to Afghanistan to fight Al-Qaeda and Taliban, right? Hundreds of American young soldiers lost their lives. 43 Australian soldiers got killed in Afghanistan. They went there to fight the Taliban. And what happened? Did they eliminate Taliban? No. We saw Taliban not only surviving, but they were thriving.
Yeah.
They were given an opportunity to govern a country of 35 million people. President Biden in his last speech said, we were not in Afghanistan for nation building. Excuse me, yes, we did not ask you to come. You invaded Afghanistan. The Afghans did not beg you.
Wow.
You turned Afghanistan into an experimental ground. You know, Americans, the Trump administration dropped mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. And it was dropped in Achin district of Nangarhar. I belong to Nangarhar as well, which is a Pashtun-dominated province. The Americans claim that they killed ISIS hidden tunnels. But you know what's still happening in those areas? People have developed skin diseases.
Wow.
Because mother of all bombs was used as an experimental bomb, and they dropped it in Afghanistan. Biden says we were not there for nation building. Thank you very much. You were not there and we didn't ask you. But then you packed up your bags and you left when you wanted to leave.
Yeah.
The withdrawal was so irresponsible that it did not consult the Afghan government. They left in the middle of the night. Do you really think that those who are victorious, they leave in the middle of the night? So for Afghans, it was the biggest betrayal in the history.
What was exactly the mother of all bombs? What was it? Was it a kind of half nuclear bomb, or was it something similar?
Wait. I did my study on this, and I can't remember the exact material it has.
But it would have been toxic, wouldn't it?
I think the mother of all bombs, in terms of the damage it does, is more than what a normal rocket or any other weapon could do that.
Okay.
So when I see people in that area have developed skin diseases, and even years after it has been dropped, so you can see the consequences of it on the local population.
Wow.
In why was a need of dropping mother of all bombs on Afghanistan when you could do several other options of operations in that area?
Well, that's always the question. What was the need?
Because they wanted to conduct experiments.
Exactly.
And they needed a barren land where they can throw their bombs and conduct experiments.
And that's the way they look at it. They look at Afghanistan as a kind of an experiment field, do you think?
That's what the people of Afghanistan now think. We were
But is that
abandoned. We were thrown to the wolves. Americans did their experiments.
Okay.
And right after 20 years, we're like, oh, time is up. You're no longer interested. Let's leave.
Dude, they have a huge desert. Why don't they just do it there? Or they just want people to beat test projects?
I think this question can be betterly answered by the U.S. administration and the security officials.
We should get them over here. We should call Biden, bring him down here. I don't know, Sleepy Joe will probably have a hard time doing a podcast though. He'll sit down and sleep halfway through.
Exactly.
2 minutes into the question. Mr. Biden, what do you think about the bombs dropped in Afghanistan? Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It's sad. The dude is aging. The dude is like really old. And you know, it's bad when a non-American, Iraqi-born Australian guy is talking smack about your U.S. president. Like I have nothing to do with U.S. politics. We're all the way over here, and everyone in the world talks shit about Joe Biden. But he's gone. He's finished. He's done. Do you think? I don't think he'll run again. Do you?
Well, the American politics are very complex. You can't tell.
But people wouldn't vote for him. Like Khalid, if you were living there and you look at the situation over there, if you're a U.S. citizen, you're in deep, deep shit, right? There is no one competent enough to lead that country. Not that anyone has been in the past few years, right? But it's just a theme. It just goes bad to worse for them. Like they asked Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to run for president. That's how fucked up the situation is over there.
Yeah.
That's how much deep shit they're in. Because they just want someone to control.
Yeah.
They just want a public figure that people agree with and like, and is favorable with the people. That's gonna say something, and people are gonna go, "Oh hell yeah," And I think when he was talking about, I saw an interview for him talking about how he got approached by a party, and everyone knows that it was the Liberal Party, or they don't have Liberal, they have Democratic and Republican. So it's the Democratic Party, and everyone knows about that. But it just shows you how much confusion there is over there, and how even the people of the United States, they're not in line with what their government does. Exactly. But the government doesn't care. They just don't care. They're blatant. They do whatever they want to do. They kill whoever they want to kill. They support whoever they want to support. And they're going to try and convince you that it's the right thing.
Exactly.
And even if you don't think it, well, guess what? We're still going to promote it like it's the right thing until you get conditioned to it. That's the whole thing that has been happening with Gaza and Israel as well. True. Everyone knows what's right and what's wrong, yet they try to convince you that, oh, well, we're just trying to eliminate terrorism. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And the way they look at these people, I think even in Afghanistan, they don't look at them like normal people. They're not. They look at them the same way the Nazis looked at Jews.
That's what at times I used to feel like is... Like I used to feel in Afghanistan that are Afghans children of a lesser god for these Western people?
Oh, for sure.
The way they were being treated.
Well, not the people, probably the governments.
But at times I think the governments are the representatives of the people, and these are the people who elect them.
Yes and no. Because you look at, let's take Australia, for example. Did you or did you not vote for the current party? Doesn't really matter, because if you didn't, then you got people that don't really represent you that are serving the country. And so does that really mean that the party that we have, like Albo right now, represents everyone? Not really. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we kind of like...
But the majority of the people voted for the government to be elected.
Yeah.
And it is a sort of representative of the majority of the population of that country.
Yes. But bear in mind, I know I'm kind of like going ping pong with you on this one, but...
It's fine.
The thing is, you trust governments to do the right thing. And that's why you vote them in, because you trust that this select body is going to do what you think is going to do. But then when they're in charge, shit changes. And so all the promises that they made are now binned. And we're in power right now, and you can't do anything about it. We're here for 4 years, and we're going to try and do what we think is best because you voted us in. And if you don't agree with it, well, too bad. We're here for 4 years. And I guess they do try to play that game where they kind of go hot and cold with the people. They do like 10 things that people don't agree with, and they do like a couple of things that people agree with just so they can be on their good side for a while.
And that's how politics work?
That's how politics work, yeah. So I don't think necessarily all the people agree with whatever the government goes with. But yes, you're right. You're partly right about the part where people did vote in that government, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all people are collectively in agreement with that body or with that government just because they're there.
Yeah, 100%. I fully agree with that notion, because after the American withdrawal from Afghanistan, still there are people in the US who have been condemning their government for what they did. Even people within the American Congress, they presented their testimonies, and they were like, we failed in Afghanistan, and this withdrawal, this irresponsible withdrawal from Afghanistan was a mistake.
Whoa. Why was it a mistake? What do you think? What do they say is a mistake?
They think because it was not timely. The interviews and the articles that I've read from the American policymakers, from the responsible people who once were a part of the decisions on Afghanistan, be it militarily or civilian, they think it was an irresponsible withdrawal. Things could have been managed in a much more better way than the way it took place.
Give me 1 second, please. I'll just fix that lighting. It's blinding me, bro.
Is it?
I put it too loud. Wait 1 second. Okay. Much better.
Fedele, I didn't know we will be discussing world politics.
We discuss a lot
Even
of
with
shit.
Mother of All Bombs, I could have got some data of what the material is. Although I did one of my essay on Mother of All Bombs, but it was not the exactly, what do you call it? Not the ingredients, but what it possessed. I worked on the civilian casualties of it.
Civilian casualties of?
Mother of all bombs.
Whoa. How many were there?
Countless.
Wow.
But they were not recorded at that time.
Why not?
I can't talk about it on medias and everywhere, but then it was the American-run Voice of America and all those. They went to the area to say that, oh yeah, ISIS is eliminated. We are happy.
Oh, so it's kind of like a shush situation.
Exactly.
Wow.
There were some local private TV channels who did those other voices as well, but then the government censored them.
Whoa. The like the Afghani government, or
the Afghan government, of course, because it was funded and supported by US, and we were an ally to them.
Whoa. At the time.
Yes.
Wow. But that's your own people.
But then governments are at times they run who runs them.
That was a pre-Taliban government, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it any better than the current situation? How was the government before Taliban? How did they treat people? Were they good to people?
Fedele, look, that was a democratically elected government before the Taliban take over.
Okay.
Be it good or bad, the people elected them. And there was a say and voice of the people present within that system. Although we do accept that there was a huge number of corruption within that former Afghan Republic government, but then women rights were there.
Okay.
They were protected. We had women in the cabinet serving as ministers, as federal ministers in Afghanistan. We had women in the army, at schools, at universities.
Wow.
We had a parliament. We had a legitimate government that was accepted by the world. We had embassies functioning across the globe. Now we don't have our flag. We don't have our embassies working. We don't have a president. A kind of, you can call me a stateless individual now, because my state is not recognized by the world at the moment. So there's a huge difference of the former Republic Afghan government in the current Taliban regime.
Do you feel like that's a long gone reality now? That there's no going back to that? And that you just gotta accept the situation and move on forward from here with whatever is happening right now?
I think Afghanistan is fading out of the international media. Afghanistan is fading out of the attention of the global world powers. The world is no longer focusing on it. I still remember when the fall of Kabul happened, the world and the media was focusing on Afghanistan. And to my surprise, Fedele, I found it so surprising because I was contacted for interviews by different media organizations. And you know what was the first question? Can you please tell us about the chaos at Kabul airport?
Wow.
And they were focusing on the drama happening at the airport. And I was like, look, why don't you talk about the situation or the next day under Taliban? How's it going to be? The Taliban took over.
Yeah.
What future awaits Afghanistan? Rather than just focusing on the airport chaos and the drama, because that's how the TRPs for media work. So since the Taliban take over, currently I see the world has no appetite for Afghanistan, the way they are neglecting Afghanistan. Fedele, is so surprising and unfortunate that it has been more than 2 years that girls in Afghanistan are not allowed to schools, young girls. Not only schools, universities, colleges, work. The world is totally silent on this. All we see is on International Girls' Day or something, a few tweets of condemnation from the UN Secretary General, from a few world leaders. Yeah, we condemn the Taliban ban on education. Do you really think just tweeting will help the people in Afghanistan, or some proper concrete actions need to be taken? And the world is no longer concerned about it. And then right after Afghanistan, the Ukraine conflict took place and their attention diverted towards Ukraine. People forgot about Afghanistan. And after Ukraine, now we see it's Israel-Palestine.
Yeah.
People are ignoring Ukraine. We hardly hear news about Ukraine in the media.
Yeah. I think it's the mainstream media effect that is going on right now. And what I mean by that is we've seen the fallout of the mainstream media recently, with platforms like podcasting, with avenues like YouTube, your own personal vlog, your own personal blogging. And so we saw that power shift away from mainstream media right now, but they still do control a little bit of I wouldn't say the narrative. It's not the narrative that they control. It's the focus. This mainstream media kind of controls the focus. And what I mean by that is, say we're talking about the whole situation in Afghanistan right now. We're on a independent platform right now. It's a podcast that is not funded by any mainstream media. It is not paid out by anyone. It's not controlled. It's not. It's got no agenda, right? If I were to talk about Afghanistan right now, and if I were to talk about something like Palestine and Israel, the views in the videos that I'm going to pop out on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on YouTube are very different, right? And so if we were talking about Palestine, Afghanistan right now, Palestine, Israel, the views would go through the roof. But because we're talking about a topic that's not considered hot, the algorithm doesn't treat it the same way because it's not popular at the moment, which is so fucked up and so bizarre. And because it makes you think that it's a trend. It's not a massacre. It's not a disaster. It's just a trend. But in reality, what's happening right now is a war crime.
It is.
But people treat it like a fashion season. Like, oh, this year we got Israel, Palestine. Last year we had Ukraine. The year before it we had Afghanistan.
And now people are expecting China, Taiwan.
Exactly. So be ready for next season's drop. What do we got, right?
And that's so unfortunate because these questions are humanitarian aspects of looking into conflicts. Because we see people dying, but then we see like, okay, let's wait for another conflict to take place, and where the media takes us and the narrative that the media provides us, we'll go with that. This is unfortunate.
It comes down to the integrity of the people that do have these separate platforms. And I'm not talking about it like I'm all high and mighty. I'm sitting on a high horse or something. But we have to not think, well, I don't like being all preachy about it, but I guess it's in a way, we gotta admit that we are being controlled, whether we like it or not. We are being controlled. And so the people that make these type of conversations, that have these kind of conversations, we shouldn't abide by what's popular and trendy just to get the views and clicks for our platform, rather than actually have a meaningful conversation regardless of how many views it gets. Does that make sense?
It does. But then, Fedele, there's one thing that I've noticed as well with Afghanistan. Every time that I used to tweet about Afghanistan mentioning Taliban, my tweets were disappearing from the algorithm of the news feed of the people. And I don't know how and why does it work.
Was that on X, on Twitter?
On X.
Before or after Elon?
I think after.
After?
And even with Facebook. So if you post something and you mention Taliban there, Facebook issues a notice to you that you're promoting terrorism.
Whoa.
And you tell them, like, look, there's a big difference between promoting, exposing, and
talking about it
and telling the world, But they don't do it. And I think it comes with robotic algorithm, what do you call this?
The bots?
No. Filtering? Yeah.
Filtering, yeah.
So that's how the robotic algorithm filtering works, which is unfortunate. The robot doesn't understand what you're writing, so it just clicks.
But it's primed that way. It's primed to delete all content relating to that, whether you're promoting something good or bad. They know that. They know for sure that even if you're talking about something that could be beneficial or you're exposing someone, it's still going to get deleted. They're aware of that. They're not naive to it, but they still allowed it to happen because that's what they want. They don't care if it's promoting something good or bad. They just don't want that side of the story to be shown.
Exactly.
They don't want it to be shown.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Which is, is the same thing that's happening right now with Palestine and Israel. It's the whole media war. It's the whole, are we going to be blindfolded by media, or are we going to take it off? And even if we do take off the blindfold, are we still going to see the clear picture, or are we still going to get lied to? Because you don't really know what's happening unless you're there. And like even right now, we're sitting here talking about Afghanistan. What's happening over there is far worse than what words can put into it. And I've seen something happen like that in Iraq with ICE in Mosul. They had women being sold on the street in chains, in abayas, like slaves, right? But those kind of videos didn't really pop up at the time. Right now, they kind of emerged a little bit, but it's just a long gone case. Right now, people are looking at, oh, this was horrible.
Yeah.
Buddy, this was like 5 years ago. It's old news right now. Where were you back then?
But I think one reason why people are not even bothered about it is because it's not affecting them.
Wait, why or white?
Sorry.
Did you say why people or white people?
Why people?
Oh, why? Okay.
Why? W-H-Y.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to sound racist mentioning specific people of color, but I think it's more to do with the people because they're not bothered about it. It's like, oh, it's not happening within our periphery, our territory.
Yeah.
It's far at another corner of the world. So why should I think about it?
I think the reason why people like me and you, and I don't want to sound like I'm inclusive about it, but it does have something to do with experience. Like you're telling me about the whole story, and I can imagine these things happening because I've seen it.
And you have been through it. That's how you can feel it.
And if you tell someone that's never been through something like that, it's hard for them to kind of piece together exactly what the feeling is. It's like trying to tell a guy about your rape experience, right? A guy's just never gonna get it, but you just gotta hope. You know, like not that guys don't get raped, but like as a woman, I guess. It's like telling someone that, you know, it's like being someone that got raped, telling someone that's never been raped, this is what it feels like, and them going, I understand.
You know, Fedele, at times when I sit with my friends at University of Melbourne, my fellows, and I tell them that how fortunate you guys are, that you're living at this corner of the world. When I narrate stories of Afghanistan to them, like they are at shock. And they're like, oh my God, how could this happen to human beings on the same earth?
Yeah.
But it's the people, the younger generation in these Western countries and other first world countries that take these opportunities of living in a peaceful country, having an independent sovereign state. They take all these very, very for granted. And they can never even think of what people suffer in other corners of the world until or unless they meet such people.
Or it happens to them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Saw a video yesterday of a house being blown up in, was it Detroit? No. Louisiana? No. Somewhere in the US. And all the comments were just going off about, oh, now you guys know what Gaza feels like, which is fair enough, right? But was it really the right time for you to guys? Guy had his house blown up and everyone is just, you know, blasting in the comments about Gaza. Like, this is the part of the internet that I don't like. People, when something horrible happens, people go straight away to comparison.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, no, this thing happened and it's terrible and you gotta treat it like its own separate thing. You know what I mean? Afghanistan is not Iraq. Iraq is not Palestine. Palestine is not Ukraine. Each and every single one is its own separate thing. And so why do we gotta compare it like it's the terrorism Olympics?
Yeah.
Right?
And different countries have got their own different dynamics, territorial positions, geopolitical situations in the global map, the relations, the cultures, the people, the type of resistance they have. It's never comparable.
No, never comparable. And we're just touching the surface of it. Like every now and then you see news come up in somewhere like Sudan. Something comes up in Africa. Something comes up in, I don't know, Mozambique. And you go, tragedy happened in Sudan for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reasons. And it's been happening for the 6 months. You're like, holy shit, how did I just hear about it now?
Yeah.
Right? Like how with all the media reach that we have right now, something like that is just under covers and we haven't really heard about it. And you feel so naive, but it's just impossible to keep up with everything because a lot of shit is happening everywhere.
Indeed.
A lot of horrible shit is happening everywhere, right? But where do we go from here? What's the next step? What do you think is the light in the darkness for Afghanistan right now?
At the moment, I don't see any light, to be very honest, because this regime is there and it is governing, and there's no sort of intention or appetite from the world to do something to sanction them or remove them from power. The resistance within Afghanistan doesn't seem to be taking place, or there is no as such concrete uprising, because the people are tired of all these things. They don't want any bloodshed. But by the end, I believe this is the mess that was created by the foreigners in Afghanistan.
Foreigners?
Yeah, and now they have to clean it up and find a solution to it.
What do you mean by the foreigners?
The invaders.
Okay.
Those who came to Afghanistan, who invaded Afghanistan,
Okay.
and then they left in the middle.
Oh, okay.
If they were friends, they wouldn't have done this to this country.
No, because my head went to something like a foreign Afghan, like politicians and people that are Afghan but from overseas.
If you look at the history of Afghanistan, Fedele, the turmoils and the crises that have been created were orchestrated by the foreign powers. By foreign powers, I mean, if you look at the Cold War scenario, it was the Russians. So the actors, the scriptwriters were Russians, but then they had Afghans implementing that for them. Similar is the case with Taliban. They are Afghans, including some Arab, Chechen, a majority of them Pakistani foot soldiers that are a part of them, trained by Pakistanis, but they're creating all the mess in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So I think at the moment, one of the biggest challenges that the Taliban government face, and I think it's a test for them, because the Taliban government is not accepted by the people within Afghanistan. It's a government that came into power by force. The people did not elect them. The Taliban did not come into power as a result of elections. They got it because American left and they handed over this. For the Taliban, the first challenge is legitimacy within their own country from the population of Afghanistan.
Okay.
And then they should think of getting legitimacy from the global world. Because the Taliban are like, you see Taliban's foreign minister every time he appears in interviews, he begs the world to please give our regime legitimacy.
The Taliban foreign minister?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And he begs the world to accept this as a newly elected government of Afghanistan, because this is what it is. But the world is reluctant. And I think it's good for the world to not recognize the Taliban government at the moment, until or unless the women rights there are at place. Women are allowed to universities, to colleges. I find it super surprising, Fedele. Look, the Taliban have no issues with women. Like the Taliban have no issues with women begging in streets of Kabul, girls polishing shoes on the roadsides of Kabul, but they have issues with women attending universities, sitting in government offices, attending colleges, working, because they say it's un-Islamic. So do you really think Afghanistan was un-Islamic before the Taliban took over? Or did the people now accepted Islam after Taliban took place or took over?
That's a very big hypocrisy.
So they're using the religion card. They're not using, they're manipulating the religion card. Because 99% of the population of Afghanistan is Muslim. Girls in Afghanistan attended work, universities, and everything within the Islamic dress code, the Islamic culture. They used to wear scarves. And there was a segregation in schools. Boys and girls never used to sit together in Afghanistan. So everything was within the structure of the Afghan society. It was according to the Afghan values, norms, and cultures.
Yeah.
So what are Taliban preaching? It's never Pashtun culture. It's not Afghan culture, and it's not Islamic.
What did
Islam
you say? They were segregated, so they were separated in school, or not?
In the former Republic government, yes.
Yeah.
So because if you see Afghan society, it's a bit of conservative.
Yeah.
And it's more of Islamic.
Yeah.
So they don't appreciate boys and girls attending schools together.
Yeah.
So they were separate schools.
Yeah.
So what was the excuse for Taliban to shut these schools for girls, although they were separate? So they want to drag Afghanistan into Stone Age. They don't want to. They want to halt the progress of Afghanistan. They have, at the moment, confined women to homes. They're not playing their part in the society. And do you really think, will the people and the population of Afghanistan accept Taliban as their government?
No.
Why would they?
Not, yeah. But it must be hard for these women that used to have thriving jobs. They used to have careers.
Fedele, there were women who were the only sole bread earners of their families.
Yeah.
And there are some news of women committing suicides at the moment because they can't feed their kids. Many of the women have migrated from Afghanistan because they couldn't get their children a proper future in terms of education, work, and a lifestyle. And they have migrated to neighboring countries like Pakistan and Iran, where they're still facing prosecution, harassment from the police because they do not possess visas to live there. They've gone on visit visas to those countries. So it's a lot of trouble for Afghans at the moment. But not everyone can feel that. And nobody talks about it.
No. But it must be very hard. I don't really get the whole notion behind it, because is there anything in Quran or Islam that tells you not to go to school as a woman?
Fadal,
that can be exploited in that way?
The Holy Prophet said, Talab al-ilma farizatan ala kulli Muslim, which means seeking knowledge is binding upon every Muslim. It's not specified here, male, female.
Yeah.
Upon every Muslim.
But what's their motivation then? Why do they just want to suppress women like that? What are they so afraid of?
I think they want to paralyze half of the Afghan society. Taliban are not friends of Afghanistan, they're enemies of Afghanistan. And they want to destroy this country. I fear that they will end up dividing this country on ethnic basis, the way they are ruling right now. And if Taliban are giving this notion to the world that, look, we are an Islamic force, we were fighting for jihad, we're fighting for Islam, so this is not Islam. They were butchering people in the past 20 years. They attacked our mosques, they attacked our soldiers who were at the mosque offering Friday prayers. They threw acids on the faces of girls going to universities and colleges. What sort of holy war it is? Do you call this holy?
Yeah.
For Afghans, still that we can't find an answer to this. How did the world let this happen? The progress that Afghanistan made from 2001 after the American invasion.
Yeah.
And before 2001, it was the Taliban government. So you toppled the Taliban government. The Americans and NATO and the coalition forces, they came, they trained the Afghan army. They brought heaps of dollars with them. And of course, a huge percentage of this was looted by the Afghan leaders, including the warlords from the Northern Alliance and from different regions of Afghanistan. But then we had an army, the country started growing, youngsters were going to colleges, to universities, and then all of a sudden, things collapsed and it changed. So currently, youngsters in Afghanistan, they are all passing through some sort of psychological disorders, which nobody understands. And it's very obvious. You see families being separated. Afghans have gone to different countries of the world at the moment. I ended up in Australia. My grandmother, my cousins, half of my family is still in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So these are the family bonds that were broken. In you don't know when could you meet your family back again. So this is a bit heartbreaking to many of the Afghans who have fled Afghanistan at the moment.
Are you separated from your family as well?
We are. And I miss my grandmother a lot. And I wish I could hug her for one last time, because she was in Jalalabad, I was in Kabul, and the way this chaos happened, I had a chance to speak on the call with her, but there was no chance of traveling to that city back again to meet her and come here. And I still dream of the day that I can go back to Kabul, hug her, meet her, have some picnics with my cousins, eat the Afghan fruit. I love the Afghan pomegranate, the pomegranate of Kandahar. It's matchless and famous across the globe. Man.
It sounds really nice talking about it. I hope, one day you can get to do that. But
time is running.
Running, yeah.
And my grandma is aging. And similar is the case with so many other Afghans that are separated from their parents.
Yeah.
And time doesn't wait.
No.
Like the 2 years that we could spend together, we have spent it in migration,
Yeah.
in separation.
Wow.
And it can never be compensated.
Yeah.
It can never be returned.
Yeah.
And the same situation applies to couples, to love couples who are in relationship. Somebody ended up in Iran, somebody's in Afghanistan, somebody's in US.
Wow.
So our whole life structure of the Afghan society has been badly damaged by this Taliban takeover of Afghanistan.
Could your grandmother not leave?
She didn't have a visa.
What about now? Is it impossible for her to get out?
It's more than impossible.
Wow.
Because every day we see Afghans who supported the coalition forces in Afghanistan as interpreters, as security forces, they are left behind. The Americans and all the other countries failed to evacuate every individual who supported them in Afghanistan at the cost of their lives. So they're finding it hard to get visas for those individuals. How come somebody who was a civilian and was not a part of a government will be able to get a visa and travel? The migration policies are so strict.
They are. Do you think they're fair, at least? Do you think they're just? I don't think they are. They're very unjust.
With the migration policies?
Yes.
In one regards, I think they are good for their own selves, their own countries, because they want their borders to be controlled. They can't have every individual entering their countries through boats or illegal means.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. That's the proper way to think about it. But then, yet again, you have people who are clearly struggling, and you could put a finger on that person and run a quick check, and you can easily identify the people who are in need of immigration, yet they still are left behind. Like someone like your grandma, like one check and you can get a whole history of that woman and her whole, what do they call it? Criminal history. And you can check that it's clear. So why not clear a woman like that of an older age that is clearly running away seeking asylum with ease? Why does it got to be so difficult for these people? But I guess the thing that my friend mentioned one time is that everyone thinks that they're a priority, right? And when you get a situation like that, if you're Australia and you're trying to take refugees in, it's kind of a tough spot because you got Palestinians that are a priority, you got Afghanistan that's a priority, you got
Ukrainians, Iranians,
all over the place.
Exactly.
All over the place. And everyone thinks that we're the ones that are in the most shit, when in reality, everyone else is just about in the same deep water as they are. And so it's kind of a tricky situation for the governments to try and manage and go, we're going to pick you. That's why they go off relevancy right now.
Exactly.
That's why if you're an Iraqi refugee right now, good luck, because there's nothing relevant right now for your case to go apply for a visa and go, I've left my country because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 happened, right?
Yeah.
Because it already happened ages ago. Right now, Iraq is settled for what is considered settled. Excuse me. And I fear that Afghanistan will reach a point where they are content with the current situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they think that Taliban being there for 3 years, 4
And this
years,
is what it is.
It is what it is.
I fear that. And it is happening sort of. Because with Taliban taking power, it's so surprising that several regional countries have handed over their embassies to them. And it's a kind of de facto recognition. Do you know China accepted Taliban's ambassador in Beijing,
Whoa,
who will be functioning the embassy of Afghanistan on behalf of the Taliban government.
that's crazy.
Pakistan was among the first countries who handed over the embassy in Islamabad to Taliban, and we had Taliban wearing turban, acting as Afghan diplomats and ambassadors.
Wow.
So Moscow handed over the embassy to Taliban.
Moscow as well.
Yes, they did.
Well,
And Iran did that as well.
that doesn't surprise me, if I'm being honest.
Turkey did that as well. So you see countries giving them a backdoor or de facto recognition to the Taliban that, look, we won't admit it, that we see you as a legitimate government,
But we kind of do.
but let's have a secret friendship.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what this tale of romance is still going on between these countries.
What do they get out of it?
They get control and dominance in Afghanistan because Afghanistan is a hotbed.
Okay.
In the past 20 years of the Republic government that we had, Afghanistan was a wrestling ring or a battle ring between different regional powers. It was Russia versus America,
Okay.
Saudi Arabia versus Iran, Pakistan versus India. So all the rivalries that these countries had with each other, they were using Afghanistan as a breeding ground for it,
The battlefield.
as a battlefield. Exactly.
Wow.
We could see there was a massive suicide attack outside Indian embassy in Kabul.
Yeah.
And there were hundreds of innocent Afghans who died, who were waiting in the parking area, and there were long queues of people at the windows of the Indian embassy who were there to seek visas for treatment and visit and study visas to India.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden a huge blast took place. And we witnessed hundreds of Afghans died. And then the Indian Foreign Ministry issued a statement and they said like, oh, we have concrete evidence of ISI, the Pakistani intelligence agency, involved in it. Because Pakistan couldn't attack India in India, so they decided to target them in Afghanistan, target their embassy. Similarly, we used to get, recently there was an attack on the Russian embassy, outside Russian embassy in Kabul. So who would target Russia?
Yeah.
It's obvious. Similar was the rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, it's costly, it's difficult to get into your borders. I'll hit you in Afghanistan. That's what was happening.
That's so fucked
So
up.
now with China, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, they don't want to lose that grip on Afghanistan. They want to have a political presence in this country because they believe that maybe if not now, in the near future, Afghanistan will again have that relevancy in the global politics. If not in global politics, it will definitely have that relevancy for them in regional politics, in the regional rivalry. Because Afghanistan shares borders with China, with Iran, with Pakistan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the middle of everything, isn't it?
It is, and it shares borders with the former USSR states like Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
And it's an easy pathway to Central Asia.
Yeah.
So they don't want to lose that geographical location.
Kind of links everything together, doesn't it?
It does. That's why it's called the heart of Asia.
Yeah. It's pretty big, if you think about it.
The borders?
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Should we take a break?
You want to? Yeah. Can take a break.
How long does your memory card record?
Hours and hours and hours.
Good.
Yeah. It goes for about 3 hours, 4 hours. With 4K. If I downgrade it to HD, it can go for about 6 hours maybe.
You know, the only thing that I disliked back home was I used to do a morning show for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I had an earpiece and it was like camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, and then the crane. So every time I talk and they'd tell me, switch to camera 2 and
Oh, yeah.
maintaining that expressions and gestures and going there. I was like, fuck off. This is so retarding. And then they were like, break has to be with the crane.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, the chit chat is going, don't go anywhere, don't even think of touching the remote. You're going and coming back.
Yeah.
Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta music. I was like, I need to wake up, have some walk, come back, sit on my seat, have something to eat. And then again, earpiece says, start.
Yeah.
Start with camera 1, look there. Camera 2. That was hard.
And you have to stay in character for.
And news were super easy.
Yeah.
You get a prompter, a camera, just sit. I won't say it was easy. It was difficult. We had all heartbreaking news of killing, suicide bombings. No pleasant news in Afghanistan. But then, in terms of job, it was much easier. You just wear a suit, tie, sit straight, concentrated, and speak. You know, Fedele, one of the incidents that I still recall, and I can't forget, one of the best moments that happened to me was I was presenting live news once, and you know there's a prompter that have the news in preview, and all of a sudden it hanged.
Oh.
I was reading the news, and I was like, if I say, let's take a break, or it disappeared, it's live, people are watching.
Yeah.
You know what I did? And all of a sudden, I just like, I stopped producing sound just to give an image to people that there is an issue with the mic. So I was like, and control room is saying, no mic, no audio.
Oh my God.
And they went on a title break. There was news title.
Yeah.
So the engineers and everyone came. What happened? What happened?
Yeah.
It was like it disappeared. I was like, oh my God. We thought the microphones are not working. And I was like, yeah, that's what the people on TV thought as well.
Wow.
The audio disappeared.
Yeah.
So that was one of the best moments. And then when I came back home and I was like feeling so super proud of myself.
Yeah.
Like, how did it click into my mind? And that was a good moment of managing that.
That's so smart, dude. That's so clever. Coming up with it on the spot is very good. Sometimes people panic.
I got panicked for a while, and then I was like, I don't have to give the image to people that I'm reading something and it disappeared and I have no clue of saying what is the next line.
So did it just completely freeze or did it just go away?
No. I had a mouse,
Yeah.
the cursor, and it was no longer working.
Oh, the cursor was no longer working. So you
it
can
has
read
to
it.
go up, and it hanged within that line. And I was like,
Yeah.
so people thought, oh, there's an audio.
Yeah. Even people at home, that maybe they think it's their TV. You know? If you're watching, it's like, oh,
For some, it was like, oh, the audio disappeared.
oh, fuck, I'm with my TV, man. Let me turn it off and on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. But I guess, how long did you work in TV for?
I worked for our state TV. The last job that I had, I worked there for 3.5 years.
Whoa. How was it like?
Amazing.
Really?
Every day, new motivation, new energy, doing new things. And I was sort of in charge of the digital media section.
Yeah.
So the digital media had an impact of its own. You could see it. I was writing scripts for my explainers, talking to the graphic designer. I need relevant graphics for the explainer, and then recording it, and then it's edited and put it on social media. You could see the engagement, the shares, the likes. That was giving me positive energy every time because you could see the impact of your work. With TV, you don't see it more often. You're like, oh, it's done. People watched it. They switched off the TV. They slept.
Yeah.
With digital media, social media, it stays there.
Yeah.
And I think social media was very impactful, and you could get the response back.
Yeah.
And with the situations in the society, the way it's progressing, people are no longer into television. Do you remember when was the last time you switched on your television?
Or the news? I only switch it on for football, and that's about it.
Yeah. I can recall the last time I used a television and I had a remote in my hand was 2-3 days ago, and that was for a child in our home. I was doing YouTube.
Yeah. Unless you're doing something like that, you don't really do it.
Exactly.
Even
So
now,
everything is on your phone now.
Even YouTube, you can still link YouTube through your phone, so you don't even have to touch the remote control. If you have one of those like fetch boxes or like smart TV, click, boop, 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 that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the smartphones taking over everything, and it's digital media. And I think youngsters should be more of involved into digital media thing, particularly digital activism. Twitter is the best source.
Yeah.
Be active on it. Be a voice of your people. Be a voice of your country. And that's how you can inform the world with whatever is happening.
Dude, the Taliban is on Twitter as well, aren't they?
They are. Taliban are on Twitter. They got hundreds of fake trolling accounts. They would troll you within seconds.
How they troll? How does Taliban does trolling? Do they just like spam other people's accounts like yours?
They do. They come up with abusive comments. They come up with your photos being edited, cropped, photoshopped, using them against you. I remember when I came to Australia, I was interviewed by ITV News, which is the Israel state media. They sent me an email. They were like, are you up for an interview? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. I did the interview. I put the link on my Twitter, on my Facebook page. And the next day, I had heaps of comments. They're like, look, this guy escaped from Afghanistan to claim asylum in Australia, and he's promoting Western agenda. He's working with the media houses of the infidels. He's there.
It's a sellout, basically. Yeah.
And things like that. And I was, ignore. But then, even if you want to or you don't want to ignore them, it impacts you in some ways because you get tagged, you get mentioned.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, you just click and it takes you there.
Yeah.
And you read that comment.
You read that, yeah.
So it's not easy to digest.
Yeah. I guess I haven't really been hit with that much negativity yet. Like, yeah, sometimes we do get like comments where people are just like bashing in the comments.
But you have to be mentally prepared for that, Fedele. And you should take that as a motivation.
Yeah.
Because your work is being noticed. People are watching you. They're keeping an eye on you. And they're taking out time to bash you back.
Yeah, sure.
They're taking out time to do propaganda and find some negativity just to satisfy their egos.
Yeah.
And they put that stuff on their timelines.
Yeah.
So I take that as, I'm ruling their timeline. I am there. Be it in a good way or a bad way.
Run free in your head.
Yeah.
It's like, I appreciate it if you take the time out of your day, man. Think about me, right?
And you're mentioning me. My account gets mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
And people visit my
So it's
profile.
like exposure.
Exposure. Free
Or
exposure.
Free exposure. Yeah. All exposure is good exposure. Good or bad.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's because we haven't really scaled up to that extent yet. Like we're still a small platform, so we don't really. Whatever we say right here, it's not gonna make headlines. It's not like, oh, this podcast with 100,000 views said yada yada yada, and now everyone's gonna be angry about it. No one cares. Most of the people that be angry in the comments, they're angry about, I don't know, like a football take that I had on the podcast. If I say their team is shit, everyone in the comments is like, this asshole knows nothing about football, man. Why are people watching this video? Yeah. Right? Like, I had a couple of videos that were about politics and people were bashing hard, but it is what it is. I mean, not everyone is going to agree with you at the end of the day.
True.
And it's just so bizarre because the same people that be saying these things, they wouldn't say it to you to your face. And so
They come up with fake accounts.
The fake accounts.
With a fake DP.
Fake DP.
2-3 followers.
Yeah. Fake photos. Sometimes no photos.
Exactly.
Just to get it out of their system. They make a whole account. They spend like 2 hours making that account.
That's why I appreciate them.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
You're giving your
At the end of
time.
the day, it's just, you asshole. Tweet. All right. Honey's like, lunch ready yet?
Yeah.
Right. It's so bizarre. But you think about it, like, how much time do you have in your day to spend it spreading hate? And it's not even like constructive conversation. You're getting nothing out of it.
True.
There's nothing you're adding. There's no value you're getting. There's no IQ you're boosting. There's no constructive criticism you're giving. You as a human being are not being any better when you're doing this.
You know, Fedele, there was a guy who once came in a gathering to have a handshake with me. And he was like, you know, I like you now. Because every time I put some harsh, abusive comments on your content, on your video on TikTok, you come back and like it.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, you never respond me. So I was like, look, love begets love.
Yeah.
And it's the hate mongers that spread hate.
Yeah.
So if they are spreading hate and I respond back with the hate,
Yeah.
so it doubles that.
Yeah.
Instead of me staying silent,
Yeah.
loving his comment, thank you, you typed it, you did an effort,
Yeah.
it is there,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to respond.
Dude, that must be such a crazy interaction. It's like seeing them. Hey, you know that asshole in your comments every time? Yeah, that's me, man.
No, he had his DP on and I knew him.
Yeah?
And he was like, you love my comment.
That's even worse, bro. Publicly exposing himself like that. But at least he came to his senses. had his redemption arc.
Yeah.
Something to save it. Dude, I think the thing with you is because you're such a big journalist, you can be very divisive. Because you influence people. You are essentially what an influencer is. None of that, Instagram influencing bullshit where people do nothing for like 24 hours and they vlog and they call that influencing. Journalists are actual influencers. They have word that affects people. And these people, when they hear someone with such a big platform say something that they disagree with, they automatically panic and think that this guy is just going to affect everyone into this stupid take. I don't want that, so I'm just going to bash it in the comments.
Yeah.
And that's just not the right way to go about it. If you're someone that disagrees with a point, if you're someone that disagrees with a take, speak about it.
And come up with a concrete argument.
Exactly.
Rather than using abusive language.
Yeah, it's like if you think that you know better, create your own platform.
Exactly.
Do your own thing. And if you care that much for people to hear the right message, then you probably would have been a journalist as well.
And it comes more from a kind of jealousy as well. Some people develop this sense of enmity towards you because they think if somebody is doing some activism or something, they might have their own personal agendas hidden behind them, whereas they fail to understand that activism comes up with a price. You take out your time, your energy. It's a sort of investment. You take out your family time, your personal time, and you devote it to a cause. Yeah. And that cause is being the voice of your people and bringing up the sufferings and grievances of your people on a platform.
Yeah.
Rather than appreciating it, they come up with bashing you, but it doesn't hurt me. It gives me more energy.
And sometimes it's not even that fruitful. Like people think that these people.
By the end of the day, at times when I sit alone and I think like, why humans behave in that way?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. But this is what it is.
Built up anger.
Yeah.
It's built up. We're more angry than happy most of the times. If you think about it, we don't really have a lot of happy moments, and when we do, they're like really memorized, and that's what makes them really precious. Because if you had a lot of happy times and less, how do I make it? If you had like a 6-1 ratio, 6 times happy, 1 time angry, being happy doesn't really mean anything anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's just contempt until it's like a flat line that goes up every now and then. In that time when it actually peaks is when you're actually appreciative and you remember it. And if you have something that happened when you were young and it really spiked up, that's going to be a core memory for you when you grow up. And so for me, maybe it's my uncle visiting us in Santa Claus back in the day. Like that's when I was really happy. And you remember that. You grow up with that 20 years, 30 years, and you remember that small little memory you had with your grandma. You remember that small little memory you had with your uncle. Yeah. You remember the first time your parents taking you to the park, something like that. Your first time getting a car, right? And if it was all the time similar experiences, those experiences wouldn't mean shit anymore.
Yeah.
But that's why happy moments are really meaningful and deep, but that's why also people are angry most of the times, because we don't get them as much. And when you don't get them as much, you're just gonna be spiteful and unappreciative and ungrateful, and you're just gonna let out hate, whether it's intentional or unintentional.
Yeah.
So that's why you gotta be mindful about what kind of image, what kind of person you are out there.
I fully agree.
Because everyone goes through the same shit.
Yeah.
And no one deserves to get your shit on top of their shit. They're already trying to manage their own. And if you go and put some more on their plates without them asking you to do that, you're not doing anyone any favors. You're not doing them any favor, and you're not doing yourself any favors.
True.
You're not getting it any less off your plate. It's still there. You still got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you're bitching about it doesn't mean that it's going to change or it's going to go away. So you just got to replace that thing that you're putting on their plate with hate rather than love. So then you're actually taking a bit of that weight they're lifting and also kind of giving some ease to your soul in a way. Because it feels good when you do something nice to someone and they appreciate it.
Exactly.
It feels good on the inside. You're like, wow, I made another human feel something good.
And according to psychology, Fidel, that releases the happiness hormones as well when you help somebody. And it helps you with your depression, anxiety, and stress.
Yeah.
So that's a free tip,
Yeah.
a free dose,
Yeah. It really
a
is.
free happiness pill.
Sometimes it costs nothing.
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 Exactly. It costs $0.000 to be a good
There's
person.
not even money sometimes not even time. Like it's 2 seconds to tell someone, oh, you look nice today. Oh, I really like that scarf. Oh, I really like them glasses. And it makes them feel so happy because they could be having the worst day and they put that little small detail into their outfit today and someone notices. Or that smaller perfume, oh, you smell really good today, right?
Fidel, in Pashto, we have a couplet from a poem which says, "Kadi waswi the kabe the jodawalo, the bewasa insan zada jodka kabada," which means if you have intention of building or serving the holy Kaaba, don't go for practically constructing it. Rather, make somebody's heart happy, and it's equivalent to you have served the holy Kaaba.
Whoa.
So that's how the significance and importance of it is. And there was one poem that I studied in my grade 10, and in the poet wrote, it was an English poem, which says that I climbed up the topmost steeple to seek the voice of God, and God replied, "Go down, I dwell among the people." So if you want to seek God's happiness, it is within the people that are in our surrounding. But we fail to acknowledge and see that.
That's all we have, though.
Yeah.
Because that's all we have. Like, think about it right now. What are we? 7, 9, 8 billion people. We're all the same. We're all created the same way, the same DNA, the same 4 limbs, nothing different. Like, if we had aliens in this world and they were looking on Earth and what we're doing to each other, they'll laugh at us.
Fidel, according to Islam, you know, the Islamic teachings say that God loves his creature more than 70 mothers.
More than
70 mothers.
70 mothers.
Yeah. So just imagine how much love does a mother give to her child.
Oh.
So God loves you and every human being more than 70 mothers.
Wow.
So you love God's beloved. So you're doing good to God.
Yeah.
And that's an investment that you do there, and then you get rewarded back. So if you see it with the religious perspective, even religion, every religion preaches love, humanity, pluralism, acceptance.
Yeah.
But I feel that some individuals don't.
Yeah.
And let's not count them.
Yeah.
That's a very, very minute percentage of those people. The world is full of people who believe in love, who believe in acceptance. I came to Australia from Afghanistan, and I came across people that I never imagined. The way they helped me, helped my family with starting a new life here. So that's what made me realize more that it's humanity that prevails. It's humanity that is the humanity and love and respect that is the essence of life.
Absolutely. All the time.
Exactly.
All the time. We've been here for 2,000, 3,000, even more years. And the only thing that's constant is humanity, right? Maybe before there was T-Rexes and whatnot, but until there was humanity, that was the only constant. And the thing that drives all of these people every single day is hope and love and positivity. And if you're the kind of person that doesn't really thrive your energy of these things, you wouldn't really have a happy life, would you?
True.
It would be just pain, depression, and sadness and anger and agony. But you got to really see that in people, and you got to see it in yourself, because it's really fucking tense when you live your life in pain and agony and depression. And you live your whole life in the darkness. It's very cloudy. You walk around separated from people. You walk around separated from society. You walk around separated from pretty much your whole life. You walk around separated from Mother Nature. But if you decide to take a minute, and I get it, like a lot of people get hit with very hard atrocities, right?
True.
And life sometimes tries its best to bring you down. But that happens to everyone.
Yeah.
Almost everyone. Some people don't really get hit with as hard atrocities as the other people. And that's unfair. But guess what? Life is unfair. right? There's
And
nothing
it's more
fair
about
that.
us, how we react to it
Exactly.
and how we tackle that situation.
And all we have is each other.
Exactly.
All we have is each other. It's mind-boggling that till this day we have a lot of people thinking about the whole mentality of the we versus them. We're all one. We're all one. We're just one human species. We're only one. There's no different human beings. There's no other creature that thinks and talks and acts like human beings that we know of. Nothing. And yet we try our best to ruin each other's days on the regular. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot of people. We kill each other. We shed blood. We hate. We exfoliate. We conquer. And we dominate.
Yeah.
But we're all the same. I don't really know how much people think like that, but I'd like to think that it's not the majority. And the majority of people are pretty nice people, if you think about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have progressed to where we are right now. If everyone thought with the mentality that we need to kill everyone, we would have been extinct a long time ago. Long time ago. If everyone thought everyone should die. If everyone thought, all right, we should shed blood here and there and there and there, we would be eating each other on the streets. But look at us. Right?
Yeah,
we have,
absolutely.
We have skyscrapers, we have buildings, we can have conversations, good conversations. We're doing all right. We're doing good. It's just that there's always going to be that little stain wherever you go, and that's fine. It's like we said, it's what makes the good times more valuable.
Yeah, true.
Right?
How long is the recording?
1 hour, 13 minutes.
Did we speak for 1 hour?
We spoke for 1 hour.
Did we? Oh my God.
Are you out of time?
No, let's wind it up in next 3 minutes because people will be bored.
Really?
Would they watch us speaking this long?
100%.
Would they?
Yeah. We haven't even touched the surface yet.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
1 hour. I was expecting 30 minutes.
You thought all of this was 30 minutes?
The conversation sort of.
Dude, we can talk for like 10 more minutes.
Sure.
And we check the clock and it's going to be like 5 p.m.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have to catch trains and they're like 2 hour more journey from me ahead.
Yeah. What time do you catch the train?
I don't know what time is the availability.
Because I can check it now. Check it now. Because I can drop you off at the train station after this, no problem.
Thank you.
Of course, man, of course.
Are we going to Dandenong station?
Dandenong. Yeah, the episodes go on and on.
It shows 1 hour 49 minutes journey.
Public transport? No, check what time is the train. Because then you can organize that trip. Because you're going to catch the train from Broadmeadows to...
Yeah, so one leaves at 2:52.
2:52. Yeah, what else?
So this is the one that shows 2:52.
I'll check it. Do you have the PTV app? Really? Why not? You always check this one?
Yeah, I just put it here and then...
No, because with the PTV app, I'll check
I think
mine.
it's every 20 minutes that the train comes or something.
Is that the weekends or is that the normal times?
I don't know about these stations.
These
But
stations...
with the Flinders, it's every 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's true, but it would be the same for this one as well. So I'll check the PTV app for you right now while I got it.
Okay, so it shows 2:47, 3:04.
Yeah, okay, these are the times. No, but that's also wrong, isn't it? So you put the Dandenong station. All right.
What the hell am I going to another continent?
Okay, I'll put it down here and I'll check it for you. Dandenong station, 2 train lines, planned journey. All right, I'm giving free promotion right now because none of this is actually going to be cut.
Please, you have to.
No, I don't cut.
You don't cut?
No, I don't cut. I cut when we go to the toilet. I cut when we...
Toilet break.
Yeah. Most of the times, we don't really cut. We really talk shit. Have you ever listened to the episodes before this? That's why we can talk for 5 hours.
I just saw the highlights of Milad's episode.
Milad,
the
yeah.
one with Farida.
Oh, yeah. How do you know Milad?
I saw him in a few events
Okay.
of the Afghan gatherings here.
Yeah.
And then I met him properly at Sona.
Sauna.
Yeah.
Sauna.
Yeah.
How did you meet me like that sauna?
He was sitting next to me there, and I was like, "Hi, are you Afghan?" He was like, "No." I told him, "You look like Afghan."
What?
And then I was like, "I've seen you in Bakhtar Communities event. Are you a lawyer or something?" He was like, "Yes, I am."
Oh wow.
And then we just had a hi, hello, and then we went out, and then the conversation started.
Wow. Was it any random sauna or was it the one outside Melbourne?
There's a pool in sauna in Narre Warren. It's called KC Arc.
Oh, because
I got a membership there. You got a membership, so people regularly go.
You guys live in the same area.
Yeah, we do.
That's amazing, dude. Imagine meeting a guy in sauna. Okay, so we got 2:44, 3 o'clock, 3:15, and it just goes on.
I'll catch the
and
3:15, and then I'll have something lighter to eat before I embark on a 2-hour-long journey, train journey.
2 hour long, yeah. I can imagine it could be annoying. Especially
Melbourne
with
trains.
Melbourne trains, indeed, brother. And we were looking, me and my friends, at projects the other year with the whole metro upgrade. So they have this plan where they're going to upgrade Melbourne metro and train circuits. And they want to make it something like Tokyo, something like New York, something like Moscow. Because these places, not even Moscow, one more other place that was like fully circular, I forgot where. Was it Azerbaijan? I'm not sure. But these places, they have such complex metro channels.
Indeed.
And they go around everywhere. And so the problem with like Melbourne Metro right now is that if you want to catch a train from your house to, say, for example, a specific place that is like 15 minutes by, right? And it's like in another suburb. And so if you want to go from Dandenong to, I don't know, Oakley, right? By train or by bus, that trip is going to take you about 1 hour 53 minutes or 1 hour 37 minutes because the train is not going to go point A to B straight away. It's going to go through the whole loop, right? It's going to take you through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then pick you up and drop you off to the nearest place, and then you got like drop off over there. That doesn't happen in Tokyo. With Tokyo, they have a train for each and every single spot in the city that goes through each and every single channel.
That's so relieving and time-saving.
Wherever you want to go. And so if you're living in the city of Tokyo, say for example you're in Melbourne, and you wanted to go from, I don't know, any place in the city, right? It's going to take you through the whole city loop. You've been through the city loop. It spins around itself and goes from Craigieburn all the way back to Craigieburn. That's a Craigieburn loop. And it goes to the city and spins around. With Tokyo, that doesn't exist. That doesn't happen. And so if you want to go straight to the city, there's a train that goes straight to the city from Craigieburn. There's a train that goes straight from Dandenong to Craigieburn. There's a train that goes straight from Oakley or Oak Park to the city. There's a train that goes from whatever suburb you have in mind to the other suburb straight away, and they're available like this, right? And that's what they're trying to do in Melbourne. They think it's going to take initially 20 years to complete it, so they think that it's going to be complete initially by 2050. It's going to be complete totally by 2080.
I wish we are alive to witness that.
Fuck no. We're not going to be here for it, bro. The struggle is going to continue for you and me.
And then we'll be narrating these stories to our grandchildren.
Yeah, you guys
used to travel.
Yeah, 541 guys. Yeah, best bus around.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're going to be those old people. They're going to be like, yeah, we went through 7 different continents just to get to RMIT.
Once I told one of my elders back home that, come on, now I've cleared my uni, and tell me that was just a myth, that you guys travel 20 kilometers by walk just to attend schools. I was like, no. I was like, tell me that was just a myth, that there was no electricity and you were studying by lamps. What were you doing the entire day?
No, that's such bizarre stories, man. And they make you trying to believe it as well.
And they kind of like want to motivate you.
Yeah.
You got so many facilities now, study.
Yeah.
We did not have these back in the days.
True. So hold on, let me check one thing I wanted to, because I heard a noise pop up over there. It's something troublesome. No, we're good.
Good?
Yeah. I thought I heard the laptop Because if the laptop suffers, then the mixer suffers.
And can we have a photo before we end up?
Oh, of course, bro.
How will we do that?
I'll just set up my cameras and lights and we're good for that. Don't stress about it. I've got a whole thing for the photos. Did you take the plane from Kabul to here?
Yes, I did.
How was that? Was that like a panic leave or was it organized?
It was a panic leave. The chaos outside Kabul airport was horrible, was horrendous and heartbreaking because you could feel entire Afghanistan has rushed into Kabul airport.
Yeah.
In those horrific images that I'm sure you must have seen on television.
I saw the photos.
Where youngsters were clinging to the wings of a US military airplane.
That was real, wasn't it?
And 3 youngsters fell down. They died.
Wow.
And it was a clear testament, and it was a testimony to the world that people were willing to play with their lives, or they were willing to sacrifice their lives by hanging to the wings of US Army planes, but were not willing to live under this regime. That was horrible. At Kabul airport, I remember what that chaos was like. But then we were lucky that we were boarded in a Australian Air Force plane. And that was a situation that I left with nothing, but only the clothes that I was wearing and only a bag that I had, and it had my laptop in. So at that moment, I felt a bit of lost. I felt like not only we lost our nation, we lost our hopes, our dreams, our lives, because I had a big ambitions of doing this and this and that and that. And now it's a moment that I had to leave my car in front of my apartment.
Whoa.
My closet full of clothes, shoes, my collection of ties and shirts, and I'm wearing nothing but a t-shirt. And I'm leaving my land where I grew up and not knowing when I'll be able to return back.
Yeah, if you will.
That was painful. Yeah.
Was it packed in the plane?
It was. And there were people who had tears in their eyes because they left their family members. Yeah. Many people did not know their sons were somewhere else scattered at Kabul airport, but the mother was on the plane. And then the soldiers were telling them, you board the plane and we'll try to find your son and he'll be in the next plane. Imagine passing through such situations.
No.
And but then when we landed in Australia, that was totally a different picture. The government and the people were so welcoming, so welcoming, that made us a sort of feel at home. Or you were like, oh, we are in safe hands now.
Okay.
It's a good country to be at. Yeah. Life wouldn't be as complex and as difficult as we imagined, because starting from scratch in a new country, in another corner of the world that you never thought of going, is never easy to imagine even. When you're put in a situation to live that life. But I would say the Australian community was they received us with a lot of affection and warmth.
Yeah.
That's the image that still lies in my mind.
But it still feels like that, doesn't it?
It does. This country has a different and unique characteristic that it makes you feel home, and you develop that sense of belonging here.
Yeah.
Even though if you haven't lived here for decades and ages, but the moment you start living here, you find it home.
Slowly develops.
And it's more refugee friendly.
Yeah.
Like you see avenues and opportunities waiting for you. That's something positive that I'll admire about the Australian society and this country.
Yeah. Melbourne in general is a beautiful city.
Melbourne is love.
Yeah, it is.
Melbourne is very, very multicultural.
It really is. I always tell people about that. Melbourne is a very nice place to be at. People over here are chill, they're welcoming, they're nice.
And you know, Fedele, how I ended up in Melbourne? When we were evacuated from Dubai, we were taken to Darwin.
Darwin?
Yeah.
Wow.
For the quarantine.
Yeah.
We stayed there for 14 days.
Yeah.
Very hot.
That was during COVID as well.
Yeah, it was September.
Yeah.
And COVID was at peak. And then my caseworker asked me, which city of Australia would we like to go? I was clueless. And to be very honest, and I've always said this on record, before coming to Australia, all I knew about Australia was the Australian cricket team and the Sydney Opera House. So I was talking to my caseworker and I said like...
Not the kangaroos.
Sydney Opera House. She was like, Sydney? And she wrote Sydney.
Yeah.
And then I went back to my room and there was one Afghan Australian who was our neighbor back in the days. And she saw me on ABC TV that I'm evacuated to Australia and I was live on the drum show on ABC News. She approached me on Twitter and she was like, hey, Khalid, I'm so glad you made it to Australia with family and please send me your number and all the stuff. So we exchanged contacts and we started talking on the call. And she said, which city are you guys going to? I said, I told my caseworker I'm going to Sydney. She was like, why Sydney? Come to Melbourne. We live in Melbourne. And there's a huge Afghan population living in Melbourne. And you and your mom and family and dad and everybody would love it.
That's like the best question you can ask someone. Why Sydney?
Oh, because she was a Melburnian. That's why she said that.
It's a valid question, bro.
Yeah. And I was clueless. Like, did I make a mistake?
Probably would have.
Of telling my caseworker we want to go to Sydney. But then she said, she convinced me in so many ways. And she talked to my mom and everyone. And she's a very good lawyer at the moment in Australia. So, and then I went to my caseworker. I said, can we change our city? She was like, of course you can.
Of course, yeah.
And then we ended up in Melbourne.
I'm surprised you didn't question you at the start when you said Sydney. You sure about that? You really want to go to Sydney?
No, the caseworker was like, she was putting Perth, Sydney, Brisbane, any city that any of the evacuees picked. So it was easy.
What if someone asked to stay in Darwin? Would they want to stay? Did you have anyone asking to stay in Darwin?
Nobody wanted. That was so hot. And when we arrived there, during the orientation that was given to us, they were like, watch out, be very mindful, there are snakes everywhere.
No shit.
And those who were animal phobic or insect phobic, it was hard for them.
Yeah, so where do you want to go? Anywhere about here. Just get me out of here, man. Yeah, I mean, Melbourne is one of the most beautiful cities right here. I like it. I've been here for about 6 years, 7 years. I'm glad you're here as well. I'm really glad you're here in this city because otherwise I would have to come to Sydney. Maybe I would have never met you because it was very random the way you called me. You called me while I was sick as a dog. Remember that? The first time you called me? Yeah, I was sitting at home and I was eating, what was it? Soup, the one my mom made.
And I saw your podcast on Instagram.
Yeah.
With that Afghan.
Yeah, with Farida.
Yeah.
It was so random because for the people listening right now, this guy called me up while I was having soup. And we had a conversation. The first conversation we had was like about soup for a good 10, 15 minutes. But it was very good soup. It was that meat broth, you know, the one where you put the meat and boil it and then you get the meat afterwards.
Very healthy.
It was in the middle of winter as well. Oh, Lord. It was beautiful. You here by yourself or with your family?
With my family.
Yeah, nice. It must be very hard for the people that are here by themselves.
Very hard. I meet them regularly. I make sure I hear them and I talk about their issues when I meet Australian senators and officials and decision makers, and I convey those grievances to them.
Do you think Australia has done enough or could they do more?
I think more needs to be done.
Really?
In terms of the Afghan evacuation and the Afghan visa, the humanitarian intake should be increased.
Do you think they can't? Is it that they haven't done enough, or is it they did well for some time and then they stopped? Which one?
I think more could have been done and more should be done.
Okay.
But then governments have their own obligations and responsibilities and they can't take decisions all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It has to be done through a series of bureaucratic processes and lawmakings and stuff like that. But with the case of Afghanistan, there are still families of those individuals who served alongside the Australian army in Afghanistan. The interpreters who understood the local languages and they helped the Australian mission, the embassy, the army in Afghanistan. So for instance, an interpreter is evacuated to Australia, but his wife and young kids are still in Afghanistan. So it's a hard situation for them. I have so many friends who served the ADF in Afghanistan, but they are here by their own, and they got their kids. Like I got a friend whose son just got burned after fall of Kabul. He ended up in Australia, and his wife texted him that the child,
oh my God,
is born. He's in the world, and now that child has turned 3 years old, but he hasn't met his father. And there are hundreds of stories of Afghans like this. I know a mother who served as on a very key government position in Afghanistan in the Peace Council. She's here with her son, and she has left her disabled child, who is just 12, in Afghanistan.
Whoa.
Imagine what would the situation and the situation of mental health of this mother and the child be. The mother is in Melbourne, the child is in Afghanistan, and that too a disabled child.
How did she leave him? Did she have a choice, or?
I think at first people believed that, if they come to Melbourne,
They can later.
they can apply for their kids.
Yeah.
And those who are eligible, their family members would be granted visas immediately, which did not happen. It's more than 2 years. People are waiting for visas for their beloved ones and their family and immediate family members.
Why does that not happen if it's family members?
Sorry?
What's the issue around going around taking family members with you? Why don't they allow it?
I think it's the exact quota or number of the humanitarian intake visas that the government has allocated for the case of Afghanistan. I think it's roughly 26 or 28,000, and there are more than 300,000 applicants for that.
Holy shit.
So there is a very tough process of scrutiny for the government.
Yeah.
They have to do scrutiny, who is eligible, who's not. So
Are they still working on that, or have they just cornered that thing for
as
now?
per my information, the Department of Home Affairs have increased officers at the visa section to speed up the application processes. So they're working on it.
So that's a good thing, yeah?
It is. Fedele, time to say goodbye.
It really is, bro. Yeah.
You know what? Why am I so reluctant?
Yeah.
Never in my life I have been sitting for that long on a chair to be questioned.
Really?
I've always questioned. I was the host.
Wow.
I was the anchor. Yeah. The interviews that I did were like on special occasions. For instance, like it's Eid celebration and you're invited as a guest, and that lasts for 10 to 15 minutes as a special guest entry.
Yeah.
You eat some food, you enjoy the conversation and leave. While on podcast, you have to speak and speak and speak, which is a very wonderful experience for me. And I loved it. And I would love to be on this podcast again and again.
Of course, man. Anytime. The thing is, I don't really think about it as questioning, because like you see those kind of shows, you see those kind of podcasts, and this is not what I think about this show. This is just a chat. It's just a conversation.
Exactly.
Once you get into the mind of like a questioning, it becomes kind of an interview, and it becomes kind of like interrogation-y kind of thing, and then you have to hit a time limit, and if you don't hit that time limit, people just be upset. Whereas when it comes to this show, it's just us having a conversation. You know, people that listen to it, that enjoy it, you know, they can tune in anytime they want.
And I believe the more frank the conversation is, the more loyal and factual and sincere the conversation goes. People feel at ease expressing themselves.
100%. Because like, even the thing with this show, the reason why I leave bloopers in and like I leave fuck ups in is because it's intentional. I don't try to like convey a perfect image, because once you try to do that, people are gonna think that everything has to be perfect and everything has to be like presented in a well orchestrated manner, which is just not the case in life, right? Conversation is not as easy as setting up questions and plotting a conversation and having it and dishing it out. People have a lot of social anxiety when it comes to conversation because of that, because of the expectation we put on conversation being so perfect, so polished. So you have to be like really well spoken, otherwise you can't really have a conversation, which is not the case. Anyone can have a conversation. It's a muscle that you gotta train, and when you train it, you're gonna fuck up.
True.
Right? And even with this, it's very authentic. Like you listen to it and you go, oh well, he left this part in, which means like this is okay. Right,
Yeah.
it's totally fine to like fuck up like that.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't try to polish it.
I agree. I fully agree.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm very aware you're time bound. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you for
along,
having
brother.
me. Thank you for
No,
having
thank you
me,
very
and
much
it
for
was
coming.
an absolute pleasure speaking on Afghanistan. And thank you for devoting this platform to speak about Afghanistan, which is very less talked about at the moment.
Oh yeah,
And I wish you good luck with your show.
I appreciate it, man. We'll do it again for sure. Looking forward to seeing you around, man. Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Exxon, for thank you, Spectrum, for providing the space. Thank you, Exxon. I think that's about as much thank yous as I said. Guys, don't forget, the podcast is going through a little bit of changes right now, as we mentioned in the episode before. And so our content for December is going to be very different. It is going to be here and there. It's going to be a little bit in Arabic. So look out for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making it all the way down here. And I wish you have a very good day.